Lieutenant Kira Chen froze mid-step as the crystalline floor beneath her boot emitted a soft chime. The sound echoed through the curved corridor of the Viridian space station, and a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Asterisk. Well, that's new. The station's security systems were learning, adapting to human infiltration techniques faster than expected. 3 weeks ago, these floors had been simple pressure sensors. Now they were analyzing gate patterns, distinguishing between the flowing movements of the Viridians and the more deliberate steps of humans. "Status report?" Commander Drake's voice crackled through her neural link, barely above a whisper. Kira pressed herself against the iridescent wall, her reactive camouflage suit shifting to match its subtle color variations. "They've upgraded again, sir. The whole section is probably hot." "Abort mission parameters." "Negative." She checked the quantum data chip secured in her sleeve. "Package is too important. Proceeding with alternative approach." The alternative approach, as it turned out, involved running straight into hell. Kira pushed off the wall and sprinted forward, each footfall triggering a cascade of musical notes. Alarm klaxons wailed to life, their deep resonance mixing with the crystalline chimes in an otherworldly symphony. Violet energy fields materialized at both ends of the corridor. Through the translucent barrier ahead, she caught her first glimpse of the Viridian security response team. Tall, ethereal figures, with limbs that moved like liquid mercury. "Intruder in Section 7 Delta," a melodic voice announced in perfect English. "Surrender and receive mercy." Kira reached for the cylinder at her belt. "How about I surrender and you receive this instead?" She hurled the device at the energy field. The electromagnetic pulse shattered the barrier in a shower of purple sparks, momentarily disrupting the Viridian's personal shields. Kira was moving before the sparks hit the floor. The first guard raised a weapon that looked more like a piece of abstract art than a gun. Kira slid beneath the energy blast, her augmented reflexes carrying her into the alien's legs. They went down in a tangle of limbs, human muscle, against mercury-like flesh. "Primitive," the Viridian hissed, its crystalline features contorting in disgust. "Effective," Kira countered, driving her elbow into a cluster of neural nodes at the base of its neck. The alien dropped, temporarily paralyzed. 2 more guards converged on her position. Kira rolled to her feet, drawing her sidearm in one fluid motion. The weapon was a hybrid of human and salvaged Viridian tech. Ugly but lethal. She dropped one guard with a precision shot to its shield generator. The third Viridian proved more challenging. It moved like quicksilver, its attacks flowing from impossible angles. A grazing hit from its energy weapon left Kira's left arm numb and tingling. "Commander," she grunted, ducking under another strike. "Remember that contingency we discussed?" "Lieutenant, don't you dare." "Looking pretty contingent right about now, sir." More security forces were converging on her position. The quantum chip felt heavy in her sleeve, its contents worth more than her life. Worth more than all the lives lost since first contact went sideways 3 months ago. Kira fired her last 2 shots, forcing the guards to adjust their shield configurations. In that split second of adaptation, she made her move. Her fingers flew across her weapon's controls, initiating an overload sequence. "Your species' resistance is illogical," the lead Viridian stated, its voice carrying that familiar tone of superiority that made Kira's teeth ache. "You cannot hope to compete with our level of advancement." Kira raised her hands slowly, letting them see the weapon dangling from one finger. "You know what your problem is? You're so busy being advanced you forgot how to be smart." She let the gun drop. The Viridians surged forward to contain her, their shields adapting to absorb the expected explosion. Instead, the weapon hit the floor with a dull thunk, inert and harmless. The real surprise was the quantum burst transmitter she'd activated in her neural link, broadcasting the contents of the data chip to the waiting human fleet. By the time the Viridians detected the transmission, the data was already gone. As crystalline restraints formed around her wrists, Kira allowed herself a small smile. The Viridians had captured one Marine, but in doing so, They'd just made their biggest mistake since arriving in human space. They'd given her exactly what she wanted, a way inside. Commander Marcus Drake had seen enough first contact videos to know this one was going badly. The Viridian delegation's crystalline forms towered over the human representatives in the UN General Assembly Hall, their fluid movements making even the most graceful humans look clumsy by comparison. Your proposal is... The lead Viridian, Supreme Coordinator Helix, paused as if searching for a sufficiently diplomatic word. Inadequate.
No.
Drake maintained his position at the center of the human delegation. With respect, Coordinator, we're not making a proposal. We're offering peaceful cooperation between our species. Cooperation implies equality. Helix's translucent features shifted in what Drake had learned to recognize as amusement. Your civilization has barely mastered local space travel. You still rely on biological neural networks. Your technology is... Another pause. Quaint. The chamber's atmosphere grew heavier with each word. Drake felt the eyes of Earth's political and military leadership boring into his back. They'd chosen him to lead this negotiation because of his track record. 15 first contact scenarios, all successful. But those had been with species at similar developmental stages to humanity. The Viridians were different. They hadn't arrived seeking trade or cultural exchange. Their massive ships had simply appeared in high orbit one day. Their technology so advanced, it had bypassed every early warning system. Perhaps, Drake said carefully, you could elaborate on what you would consider adequate. Helix gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, but not as it currently existed. The continents were dotted with crystalline structures similar to Viridian architecture. The ocean shimmered with what appeared to be massive energy collection arrays. We offer elevation, Helix announced. Under Viridian guidance, your world will be transformed. Your species will be uplifted. Your primitive biological limitations gradually overcome. And in return, submission. The word rang through the chamber like a death knell. Complete integration into the Viridian consensus. Your resources, your population, your potential, all directed by those better equipped to maximize their utility. Drake heard sharp intakes of breath behind him. He kept his voice level. And if we decline this generous offer? The hologram shifted, showing the same scene but with the crystalline structures reduced to rubble, the oceans dark and still. That would be... Helix's features rippled. Regrettable? Drake straightened his shoulders. In his earpiece, he could hear the Joint Chiefs conferring rapidly, but he already knew their decision. It would be the same one any human would make. I think, he said, we need to be very clear about something. He stepped forward, looking up at Helix without flinching. Humanity doesn't submit. Not to threats, not to force, and certainly not to condescension dressed up as benevolence. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Helix's crystalline form hardened, its fluid grace replaced by sharp angles. You believe you have a choice? We always have a choice. Drake allowed himself a small smile. And right now we're choosing to inform you that Earth space is sovereign territory. You have 24 hours to withdraw your ships. Or we'll show you just how inadequate we aren't. The Viridian delegation departed without another word, their fluid forms flowing together as they exited. In the silence they left behind, Drake turned to face the assembled human leadership. Well, he said, that could have gone better. The Secretary-General stepped forward. How long do we really have? Drake's expression hardened. They'll start moving against us within hours, but they made one critical mistake. Which is? They showed us exactly what they think of us. He gestured to the still-active hologram of a subjugated Earth. And in doing so, they showed us exactly how to beat them. The holographic display aboard the Hyperion's war room showed a very different Earth than the one the Viridians had threatened 3 months ago. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weaponry that hadn't existed when the aliens arrived. Scattered throughout the system, hidden shipyards churned out vessels that matched Viridian technology in ways that should have been impossible. Commander Drake stood before the assembled leadership, his expression grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Chen is now inside the Viridian command station." "Captured," Fleet Admiral Zhang corrected, her weathered features tightening. "The word you're looking for is captured, Commander." "No." A new voice joined the conversation as tech specialist Raj Patel emerged from his workstation, dark eyes bright with barely contained excitement. "The word he's looking for is positioned." His fingers danced through the air, manipulating the holographic display to show the Viridian station schematics. "Tell them, Commander. Tell them what we've done." Drake nodded. "The Viridians think they've captured a single Marine carrying critical data. What they've actually done is invite in the key to their entire network." "Explain," Zhang demanded, but there was a hint of anticipation in her voice. "Raji," Drake gestured to the tech specialist. Patel stepped forward, his usual nervous energy focused into precise movements as he expanded the station schematic. The Viridians use crystalline quantum computing. Incredibly advanced, yes, but also incredibly arrogant in its design. They believe their systems are impenetrable because no other species has mastered their level of quantum manipulation. His smile turned predatory. "They're wrong." "The data chip they detected on Lieutenant Chen was a decoy," Drake continued. "The real package is in her neural implants, a quantum virus designed by Raj's team based on reversed-engineered Viridian tech. The moment they connect her to their network for interrogation—" "We own their systems," Raj finished. "Every defense grid, every weapons platform, every piece of their precious advanced technology." Admiral Zhang's eyes narrowed. "You deliberately sent one of our people into enemy hands." "I volunteered, ma'am." Lieutenant Chen's voice came through the comm system, slightly distorted but unmistakably amused. "Currently enjoying Viridian hospitality in their detention center. The food's terrible, but the ambience is lovely." "Maintain radio silence, Lieutenant," Drake ordered, but he was smiling. "We're on schedule." "With all due respect, Commander," Colonel Richards spoke up from his position near the door. "This is insane. We're betting everything on a single infiltration?" "No," Drake replied. "We're betting on the Viridians being exactly who they've shown themselves to be. Supremely confident, utterly dismissive of human capabilities, and completely blind to the trap they've walked into." He turned to address the entire room. "Everything we've done for the past 3 months, the visible defense preparations, the obvious tech developments, it's all been theater. We wanted them to see us scrambling to catch up." Raj's hands flew through another series of commands, and the display shifted to show the Viridian fleet formations. "They've positioned their ships exactly where we predicted. Their arrogance makes them predictable. When Chen activates the virus, we'll have a 15-minute window where their entire network will be exposed." "And our actual fleet?" Zhang asked. Drake's expression turned hard. "Is nothing like what they think it is. Admiral, I'm officially requesting authorization to execute Operation Hubris." The room fell silent. Zhang studied the tactical display for a long moment before turning to face Drake. "You're betting the survival of our species on the idea that the Viridians' greatest weakness is their own sense of superiority." "No, ma'am." Drake's voice carried absolute conviction. "I'm betting on humanity's greatest strength, our ability to let our enemies underestimate us until it's too late." Zhang held his gaze for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Operation Hubris is authorized. God help us all if you're wrong." "Thank you, Admiral." Drake turned to Raj. "Send the signal to the lieutenant. We attack in 6 hours." As the room erupted into activity, Drake stared at the holographic display of the Viridian station. Somewhere in that massive structure, Kira Chen was waiting, a quantum knife poised at the throat of humanity's would-be conquerors. They had thought her capture was their victory. Soon they would learn just how wrong they were. Viridian Command Station, detention level. The interrogation field hummed softly as it held Kira suspended in a column of violet energy. She'd named it the mood lighting, just to watch her guard's crystalline features ripple with irritation. "Your continued attempts at humor are inefficient," Security Chief Nexus observed, its mercurial form flowing around the field's perimeter. Unlike the other Viridians, Nexus had adopted a more angular appearance, all sharp edges and cutting angles. "They waste both your energy and my time." "Humor is never a waste." Kira rolled her shoulders, testing the field's resistance. "Besides, I thought you wanted to study human behavior. I'm being educational." "We have studied your species extensively." Nexus gestured, and the field's intensity increased slightly. Not enough to cause pain, they were too civilized for that, but enough to remind her of her position. "Your technological advancement is approximately 3 centuries behind acceptable parameters. Your social structures are chaotic and inefficient. Your military strategy is primitive." Kira forced a flinch at that last word, letting Nexus see the reaction. The security chief's features sharpened with satisfaction. Asterisk. Perfect. Asterisk. "Then why," she asked, "are you keeping me in this fancy light show instead of a simple cell?" "Protocol dictates thorough analysis of all potential threats, regardless of their minimal nature." Nexus moved closer, studying her with faceted eyes. "Though I admit your capture was surprisingly convenient." Asterisk careful now. Kira met its gaze with just the right mix of defiance and fear. "Maybe you're just that good at your job." "Perhaps." Nexus's form shifted, becoming more fluid. "Or perhaps you will explain the real purpose of that data chip we confiscated, the one broadcasting empty code sequences." "Sorry." Kira grinned. "I don't speak to middle management. Where's your boss?" The security field crackled as Nexus's anger disrupted its perfect symmetry. "You will find our patience has limits, Lieutenant Chen." "Funny." She flexed her fingers, feeling the neural implants warming up beneath her skin. "I was about to say the same thing." Nexus raised a crystalline appendage, and the field's hum deepened. "Your species' pride blinds you to reality. In this facility alone, we have enough computational power to process every human military strategy ever conceived in microseconds." "Cool." Kira's smile widened as her internal clock hit the mark. "Hey, want to see a new one?" She began to laugh, a full, genuine laugh that seemed to catch Nexus off guard. The security chief's form crystallized fully, its edges becoming razor-sharp with suspicion. "What is the purpose of this display?" "I just remembered something funny." Kira met its gaze directly. "You ever hear the story about the Trojan horse? No? How about a virus?" The neural implants under her skin pulsed once, sending their quantum payload into the interrogation field's network. For a fraction of a second, Nexus's perfect crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. Then all hell broke loose. The first sign that something was wrong came when the station's crystalline walls began to pulse with discordant light. Nexus's form shattered and reformed as security protocols warred with the infiltrating virus. "What have you done?" The security chief's voice distorted, its usual melodic tones fracturing. "Me?" Kira pushed against the weakening containment field. "I'm just a primitive human, remember? I couldn't possibly understand your advanced systems." The field collapsed completely as emergency klaxons screamed to life throughout the station. Kira dropped into a crouch, her neural implants humming as they synchronized with the chaos she'd unleashed. Aboard the Hyperion, Raj's fingers flew across his quantum interface. "Virus is live. Their networks are trying to adapt, but—" He laughed in disbelief. "They can't. They literally can't conceive of their own systems being used against them." "Fleet status," Drake demanded. "Emerging from quantum fold in 3, 2, 1. The space around the Viridian station erupted with light as humanity's true fleet revealed itself. Not the crude vessels the Viridians had been monitoring, but ships that matched their own technology and then surpassed it. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Drake's voice was tight with fierce pride. 3 months of letting them think they knew exactly what we were capable of, 3 months of hiding our real advances behind obvious decoys. Admiral Zhang's orders cut through the command channel. All ships, execute attack pattern Theta 6. Remember your training. Today we show them exactly who they're dealing with. The human fleet moved like a school of predatory fish, each ship flowing into position with practiced precision. The Viridian vessels, caught completely off guard, struggled to form a cohesive response. Back on the station, Kira sprinted through corridors that writhed with conflicting commands. Viridian security forces moved in confused patterns, their crystalline forms clouded with uncertainty as their network-dependent tactics failed them.
"Lieutenant!" Raj's voice crackled through her neural link. "Head to Junction 7 Alpha. I'm going to give you a little distraction."
Kira rounded a corner just as the station's gravity inverted. The Viridian guards pursuing her slammed into what had been the ceiling, their liquid forms spattering before reforming. Kira was already prepared, her mag boots keeping her oriented as she ran up the wall and past them. "Status report." Drake's command cut through the chaos. "Their primary defense grid is offline," Raj reported, his voice giddy with success. "Secondary systems are attacking their own ships. They built their entire military doctrine around technological superiority, and now that superiority is eating itself alive." Through the station's crystal walls, Kira could see the space battle unfolding. Human ships danced through the confusion, their weapons finding weak points that shouldn't have existed in Viridian shields. Decades of examining older races' failed attempts to fight the Viridians had taught humanity exactly what not to do. "You still don't understand." Nexus's voice echoed through the corridor as the security chief's form flowed from the walls like liquid mercury. "Even now you cannot grasp the gulf between our species." "No." Kira raised her hybrid weapon, the one the Viridians had dismissed as primitive. "You're the one who doesn't understand. We didn't need to match your technology." She smiled. "We just needed you to think we couldn't." A massive tremor ran through the station as something critical failed. Through her neural link, Kira heard Raj whoop in triumph. "Core containment is breaking down," he announced. "Station defenses are completely offline. Lieutenant, get to extraction point Charlie 9. The Hyperion is moving to retrieve you." Acknowledged. Kira kept her weapon trained on Nexus as she backed toward the designated coordinates. "You wanted to know what was on that data chip you captured? Nothing. It was empty because it didn't need to contain anything. Your arrogance was the only weapon we needed." Nexus's form rippled with the first real emotion Kira had seen from a Viridian. Fear. "What are you?" "We're human." Kira's neural link pulsed with the approaching extraction signal. "And you really should have done your homework." The station's crystalline walls shattered like frozen mercury as the Hyperion's precision strike created Kira's escape route. Emergency force fields snapped into place, their violet energy struggling to contain the breach. Through the chaos, she could see her ship holding position, its quantum shields effortlessly deflecting desperate Viridian counterfire. "You engineered this entire conflict." Nexus's form wavered between liquid and crystal, its perfect composure finally broken. The captured data, the obvious technological development, the defensive posturing. "We learned from history." Kira kept moving toward the breach point, her hybrid weapon never wavering. "Every species that tried to match Viridian technology head-on was defeated. So we didn't play your game. We made you play ours." The security chief's crystalline surface fractured with realization. The neural implants, they're not just carrying a virus, they're an interface. Kira grinned as her neural link synchronized with the Hyperion's systems. "Turns out human brains are really good at adapting to quantum networks. Who knew?" Nexus lunged forward, its form becoming a storm of crystalline shards. But Kira was already moving, her enhanced reflexes guided by both human instinct and quantum computation. She flowed around the attack like water around stone. "Lieutenant," Drake's voice came through clear and sharp. "Status, uploading final package now." Kira's neural implants pulsed one last time, transmitting the complete map of Viridian network architecture she'd compiled during her captivity. Through the breach, she could see the wider battle. The Viridian fleet was in disarray, their ships moving with none of their usual geometric precision. Without their technological advantage, they fought like what they were, a species that had relied too long on superiority rather than skill. "It's done," Raj announced across all channels. "We have full access to their tactical networks. Their entire command structure is exposed." Nexus reformed, its liquid metal form solidifying into something almost human in its posture. "What do you want?" "The same thing we wanted 3 months ago." Kira reached the breach point as the Hyperion extended its quantum tether. "Real negotiation, equal terms, no more threats, no more demands for submission." "And if we refuse?" Kira stepped onto the tether, letting its energy field envelop her. "Then we'll demonstrate exactly how much of our capability we're still keeping in reserve." As she was drawn toward the Hyperion, Kira watched understanding finally crack through Viridian arrogance. They had come to Earth expecting to find primitives. Instead, they'd found equals who had simply been waiting for the right moment to show their true strength. "Commander Drake," she said as the Hyperion's hull opened to receive her. "Mission accomplished. Shall we invite our friends to the negotiating table?" "Well done, Lieutenant." She could hear the smile in Drake's voice. "I believe the Viridians are ready to listen. This time they might even hear what we have to say."